Here's what happened last night, and here's my takeaway on what happened last night. Again, rich guys want to leave themselves wiggle room. Rich guys don't get rich because they've been trapped in their entire life. And there's two really rich guys in Cleveland. There's LeBron, and then there's Dan Gilbert. Neither one wants to be trapped. This is why LeBron always signs these shorter deals so he can leave. So David Griffin wanted a raise. He was the GM of the Cavs, and Dan Gilbert's like, nah. Dan Gilbert's never really cared as the owner of the Cavs for GMs. He wants to be in on these deals. Dan Gilbert, a little bit like Billy Beane in Moneyball's not going to pay his manager much. Dan Gilbert's like, I'm not going to pay my GM much. So Dan Gilbert, the owner of the Cavs, doesn't give David Griffin, the GM, a raise, and David Griffin's out. Now, LeBron James, though, this is what we always talk about with LeBron. Rich guys don't allow themselves to get trapped. Mark Cuban's not getting trapped. Bill Gates doesn't get trapped. LeBron sent out a tweet last night in support of David Griffin. Now, I don't know how close they were, but it does leave LeBron wiggle room. Here's the quote. If nobody appreciated you, Griff, I did. And hopefully all the people in Cleveland, thanks for what you did for the team for 3 years. We got us one. Now, what is that allowing LeBron James? It's leaving him an out. That if he does leave Cleveland, he can say, I got you a title. I mean, man, they ran the GM out of town who I really liked. It gives him an out. Now, you say to yourself, Dan Gilbert. This is bad for Dan Gilbert. The winner in this is actually the Cleveland fans. Because by letting go of the GM and then LeBron publicly supporting the GM, it makes Dan Gilbert, who's a deal maker by DNA, he's good at it. He's a deal maker. He's in the mortgage business. He's in the real estate business. He's a deal maker. He now has to sign either Jimmy Butler or Paul George. You can't not give LeBron a star and get rid of the GM that he publicly supported. Or you're just giving him an open door to leave, and LeBron says, hey, you couldn't get me somebody I wanted him. You got rid of the GM I wanted. So both guys now, here's their situation. LeBron's got an out. GM not re-signed. The second thing is, Dan Gilbert now, the pressure is on him to sign either Jimmy Butler or Paul George. I believe they're going to get one of them really soon. Now, my feeling is, and I've been texting this morning to find this out, LeBron would prefer Paul George. He's closer to him. Paul's game works better with LeBron James. Better spot-up shooter. But Paul George has said he wanted to be a Laker, and Dan Gilbert's a rich guy who doesn't want to be cornered. Dan Gilbert's thinking, yeah, Paul George is better for LeBron, but I don't even know if LeBron's going to be here in 2 years. I think Dan Gilbert wants Jimmy Butler, who's got a couple of years on his contract, because if LeBron did bolt, Dan Gilbert's like, I'd have Jimmy Butler, and I'd have Kyrie Irving, and we'd still be good, and we'd have some cap room, and I could get other players. So here's the rub in Cleveland today. LeBron's got an out, and I think it's going to come down to who does Dan Gilbert want? Because I think he's got to deliver on one of these guys. Paul George or Jimmy Butler? I think LeBron likes Paul George. I think Dan Gilbert, I don't blame him here. Dan Gilbert's like, I'm a billionaire for a reason. I'm not getting trapped here with LeBron. He wants Jimmy Butler, who's got a longer tail, a longer contract here. So that's the rub this morning. Now, this plays out for a lot of reasons. So in all this, here's what we know about the NBA right now. Boston's got 1 million draft picks, and they may get Gordon Hayward. Cleveland's probably going to land Paul George or Jimmy Butler. I think the latter. So let me just throw this out in regards to the Lakers. So the Lakers, according to several sources, are trying to accumulate more draft picks. They're trying to get more and more draft picks because they want to eventually get Paul George, and they're concerned that Indiana is going to get a better offer from a Boston or a Chicago or a Cleveland, and all of a sudden Paul George is going to go to a better team and a better franchise, and then the Lakers can't get him.